What is up, everyone? JD here. Hope you're all doing well today. Apologies if you hear the heat pump in the background. 40 degrees here today, but let's get into what we're here to talk about, and that is going to be the Kunwu Pulsar. Full review coming at you. Let's get in it. Alright, so what we're going to be doing today, we're going to go through the specs, give you a little bit of a size comparison, help you for a frame of reference for the size of this knife, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the full review, and I'll give you my thoughts and impressions of this cool little crossbar lock from Kunwu. First, we'll jump into the specs. This has a 3.34 inch L-Max blade with a heat treat range of 60 to 62. Nice job, Kunwu. 4.25 inch handles, in my instance the jigged titanium. Overall length coming in at 7.59 inches and claim weight 4.51 ounces. Let's grab the scale and check that really quick. So coming in at 4.4 ounces, a little bit lighter than they advertised, but it could be that they advertised that with the weight of like the full flat scales, and the jigging here might have reduced a little bit of weight. So what we're going to do next is pull out some knives for size reference. We're going to start with the Demco AD 20.5, and you should, if you're familiar with the Demco, see where we are as far as size reference. I'm going to move these up a little bit for you so you can get a better frame of reference there, and then we're going to go ahead and bring out the Spyderco Shaman. So this EDC is really more in that Demco size range and less in that giant or more fuller size pocket knife like you see here with the Shaman. So let me go ahead and get the Demco out of the way. We're going to grab the Bug Out, which is going to be another great size reference here. You can see the Pulsar lining up very nicely with that, and then we'll go ahead and bring out the Hogue K320 made for SIG. And as you can see, the SIG a little bit bigger, not too much more on the handle, because you got that forward finger choil on the K320 to make it the fuller size. But as you can see, it is still closer in overall size to the Bug Out. Let's go ahead and move these out, and then I'm going to grab two budget knives for my friends out there on a budget. First, we're going to bring out the Elementum 2 button lock, and we're going to go ahead and bring out the Civivi Praxis with that really cool smooth burlap micarta done in all black. But as you can see, it's kind of in between these two. It is a little bit bigger than the Elementum 2 button lock, and it's definitely smaller than the Praxis. Being it's more into that smaller size, let's go ahead and leave those out here for the frame of reference for thickness. We'll go ahead and start with the Elementum 2, and as you can see here, these are about even as far as thickness. So hopefully that'll help you frame of reference of how this is going to carry. Next, we're going to bring it up against the Demco AD 20.5. And then last, instead of the Bug Out, we'll just compare it to the Shaman, because this is going to be really close in thickness to the Shaman. Might even have a little bit on the Shaman there, but it's pretty close. Now let's jump into the knife itself. Man, oh man, this thing has some of the nicest ergos. I heard someone out there reference that it reminded them a little bit of the Pulsar. I'd say the blade shape is definitely different between the two of those knives, but I can understand why you're saying that. The handles do look very similar. What you have here is a little bit of chamfering on the inside, so when your hands are landing on that, it's super comfortable. You got beautiful jigging here, and that just enhances grip on the knife and makes it feel very secure. Then you have some jigging here on the back spacer. That's nice because when you go actually to actuate the knife and you want to put that in your hand, and in my instance it lands way up here on the palm, it gives it nice traction. So I really do like that a lot. Now, you probably are familiar with these if you know the X-Tau. You have these ramps here on their crossbar lock, and that too has jigging on it. So you got lots of gripping going on with this knife to make sure that it remains nice and secure in the hand. Now, the pocket clip is reversible. They do give you a titanium filler tab here so that it's very clean and smooth on the opposite side of the pocket clip, depending if you're right or lefty. Nice job, Kunwu, making this reversible, because this is an ambidextrous lock. The pocket clip works really well, goes in and out of the pocket nicely. Not the most beautiful. I would love to see a milled pocket clip here that is reversible. I think it would look a lot better with the just flat diving board style pocket clip there, and maybe just a little bit of a flat spot right underneath where the pocket clip would land, just so that it goes in and out of the pocket a little bit smoother. It does catch a little bit, but because they went with the springboard, I will say that means functionally this will lift up, and instead of binding, it'll pull away and slide up against the material there. You just got to kind of push back into the pocket a little bit instead of forward. No big deal there whatsoever. T6 hardware, that is steel, not a big deal at this price point. T8 in the pivot. I think if anything, if you can make it T8 everywhere and the pocket clip can be T6, that's fine, because you don't need a lot of torque there. But I think T8 all the way throughout would make assembly and disassembly easier. Even the crossbar lock, even if you got to make it a little bit thicker, and in order to accommodate a T8, or if you can get a bolt that has a T8, I think it'd be a little bit nicer, because they include stiff springs for this, or strong springs it says on the package, for this particular knife. And you do have to take these off to get under the scales to do that. So I think since you are going to be assembling and disassembling potentially fairly often for this knife, at least a couple times potentially, I would say that you want to be able to just throw your T8 in your tool and go to town. Now let's get into the action, because originally it comes with the factory scales, and I carried it for a few days with that. Then I swapped over to the strong scales, the strong springs, and I rocked those for like 2 days, and that's all I needed to determine that I did not like the strong springs with this knife. Unlike the X-Tau, which has a heavier blade, has a longer handle, it has more weight on the blade, it has thumb studs which are easier to get power behind, I felt like it degraded the action on here. So after a couple days, I got the skiffs that were intended for this knife. Those are 6mm 1/16 ball with a 13 ball count. And I'm going to show you that install a little bit later. Right now we're doing the review. I'm going to do the disassembly to show you how to get those in there if you're interested. And if you want to test the strong springs out, might be for you. But for me, what I was finding is when I was flicking lightly, see how it can overcome that detent? What was happening when I wasn't flicking it as hard as I could, it was getting stuck here. So I would flick it and it would stop maybe a little bit higher, probably right around there, because it was putting so much tension on the bar against the actual spine of the blade, it wasn't allowing it to open. When I took the strong springs out, I did take the factory springs that come in here and I stretched them a little bit to make them a little bit stronger, and I feel like that is the sweet spot right there. Feels really good now. Action is awesome. It fires, it's nice and smooth closing, and even if you don't have a ton of strength in your hand and you're not able to get into this thumb hole very well with the larger thumbs, it now has a good amount of strength to where you can overcome that. And I'm not too worried about the lock, right? It's like any crossbar locking knife out there. All of them can be overcome if you hit that hard enough. But in the pocket, it's going to be strong. It's not going to fall out. It's not going to go anywhere. I'm cool with that. All right, now let's move on. The jimping on here. Oh, the disassembly. Tune in for that. It is a little complex with how this is designed, but I try my best to give you the tips to get through that relatively easily. It's not going to be easy. I would say out of 5, it's probably a 3.5 as far as disassembly. It is a little bit more complicated. Now back to the blade. You do have some jimping here. If you're back here choking and you land here with your thumb, you're good, but even for me, it's a little far back. Now the jimping is completely useless when you're choked up trying to get out to that tip to use it. You end up running your fingers on this very nicely crowned spine. It looks beautiful the way that it's done. I like that a lot. I think it looks good. You have a nice thin flat grind on the blade, super slicey. They did a nice job with the edge here as well. It has moved through the material nicely. I tested on the paper when it came in. The edge was, no blemishes on the edge. I've taken it through cardboard to break down a couple of boxes, and the tape and everything just cleaned right off before this review video, and it looks like it's new. I couldn't find any marks or anything on it. I'm not even really sure where I'd cleaned the tape off. Maybe back here. Not really sure. But man, this blade is really good, and they did a nice job on the heat treat. I'm really liking Elmax so far. I've only had a couple of Elmax. They've all been from Kunwu, I think. So really enjoying those knives and turning myself on to Elmax for the very first time. Happy to say. Comfortable knife, man, just really awesome. Now this knife, being that it is crossbar lock, and I got in on the Kickstarter, so I got mine for $190 by getting in on it early, but these are going to be listed on the website for $239, which I think is very fair. You're getting a titanium crossbar locking knife with jig pattern on it that has fuller tab on it. I think for that $240 price point, I would have liked to have seen titanium hardware on here instead of the steel hardware. I think that would probably be my only ask, even if you got to charge $250 for that, but I think it's a really solid price. And if you don't like the crossbar lock knife, you can go with the Kunwu Tao. It is a little bit bigger than the Pulsar, but it's still a good size. I think this will be comparable because when you equate the hand position where you can put your finger over here or your finger in the fuller, you got the same handle length, but you just got more blade length on it. But if that's too big for you, or perhaps you don't really like this pocket clip on it, the compact Tao comes with the wire pocket clip, which I think is a little bit more appropriate in this place. It is still a good four finger knife for me, but I do have to put the middle finger towards the back of that fuller right there in order for that to work for me. And as you can see there, it's going to get you very similar handle length and blade length with that knife, you know, and I'm matching up where the front finger is going. So you actually get a little bit more space on the Pulsar. I think these are running about the same price. On this one, you are getting the Elmax steel as well. Same heat treat, 60 to 62. And on the full size, you're getting M390 if you don't like Elmax. And you also are getting 60 to 62 heat treat on that, I think. It might be 61 to 63. I'm not 100% sure on that. If you don't want the Kunwu, or you're finding that you don't want to wait for them to come back in stock, go over to Traditional Pocket Knives. My link down below will take you right over there. I do get a small kickback. It's not a lot, but it does help the channel if you want to use it. But you get the jig titanium on there. You get M390. You get a little bit more of a utility shaped blade, and you're getting it for, I think, under $200 still. So really sweet deal on that. Now, if you're not into Chinese made knives, I'm just going to go ahead and bring out the Demco AD 20.5 out here. You can get those with S35 yen for $250, so a few bucks more. Or if you don't mind a button lock and you can find one, you can get a Protect Mordax. That's a USA made knife versus a Taiwan made knife. So hopefully these alternative recommendations helped you if you're not interested in a Chinese brand knife, but you want something around that size and price point. But in the end, is this a recommendable knife? For me, it is. I've really enjoyed these last few weeks with the knife. I really like it. I actually have let my Kunwu X-Tao go because I really like the EDC size of this one, and I actually have some knives that are kind of occupying the same space as that X-Tao was because of the size. But easy to recommend. I really like it. I would say ergos are top-notch. Blade, heat treat, top-notch. Disassembly is kind of in the middle of the road for me. It's a little bit too involved, but that would probably be my biggest complaint. I would like a milled titanium pocket clip, but this pocket clip actually very comfortable. I do feel it poking right here, but because they rounded it out and they made it so fat, it really kind of divides the weight up. That is, you know, or the pressure point spot is divided up enough to where that doesn't bother me. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Shout out to the folks out there that are regularly watching, leaving the likes, commenting. I appreciate that so much. I put so much effort into this, and it just means the world to me that you guys are enjoying it and that your feedback is positive about it. I appreciate that. I hope all of you have a fantastic week. Until next time, peace.